My name is Robert Canino, and I am a graduate of Bethany Nazarene College. I graduated in 1982, and I majored in speech and communications with a couple other things, sprinkled in for good measure. I didn't grow up in the church, but in my senior year, my parents were going to move out of state, and they decided that I shouldn't have my school disrupted. They let me stay with my best friend. Well, my best friend's dad was a Nazarene pastor. And so the next thing that happened was that I got invited to my very first summer youth church camp. All the kids that were there, thousands of kids, they were complete strangers, but they accepted me, they embraced me, and beyond that, they acted as though they'd known me their whole lives. So I decided right then and there, I need to go to a school where I can surround myself with those kinds of relationships. I went back home, I kicked aside a big box in my closet that was full of scholarship offers to major in English, which wasn't my favorite subject. My new favorite subject was going to be relationships. And so I decided to make that choice and go to Bethany Nazarene College. I can't really tell you about some of my most memorable experiences at BNC. Because I'm not really sure that the statute of limitations in the state of Oklahoma has completely run or expired on some of those things. And so while I might be exaggerating just a little bit with that caveat, I would say that my college years were some of the most exhilarating years of my life, because when I look back on it and I think about it, I see that it was in college that I found my first true love. Those were the years when I wrote my first check. And those were the years when I suffered through my first financial crisis. And perhaps most importantly, it was in college that I experienced the most moving and stirring experiences in my soul. And so I look back on all those things as lessons learned that prepared me for the future. And those are things that I'll always remember the rest of my life. I had great preparers. I had professors like Lauren Gresham and Randall Spindle, Tom Barnard, Jim Priest, and on the communications side, Dr. Murrow and Carolyn Waterman and Pam Broyles. And all of these people worked together to help me be confident in who I was and to help me understand what I believed. Well, when I got my first job out of law school, it was working for an insurance defense medical malpractice firm. And so I remember thinking that I'd finally arrived, that I was going to have a luxurious life and big status. But it wasn't long after that I realized that I was embedded in this culture of win at all costs. And when there's such a drive to win, it's expected that you'll allow the truth to be shadowed, and that you may facilitate the shadowing of that truth. And so that created a real dilemma for me, a moral conflict, and I couldn't sleep at night. That's when I decided that it would be best for me to go into public service and to work for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, because I would be able to represent the unrepresented, and I would be able to be a voice for people that often had no voice. I can't help but think of two very important cases. They were about human trafficking, forced labor, and modern-day slavery. In both of these cases, we had a group of people who trusted others and who were vulnerable, unfortunately, and therefore had that trust betrayed. They were people who had to work for years without getting paid. In one case, you had foreign workers who came following the American dream only to have it turned to a nightmare. In another case, we had intellectually disabled adults who worked for 35 or 40 years, over 40 hours a week, only to get paid about $2 a day. And in each of those cases, these folks were denied the most basic of freedom. Ultimately, we had victory in both. In one case, we had a decision that is about 100 pages written by a federal judge to serve as a template and an educational piece for everyone to see how we can all do our part to fight labor trafficking. And in the other case, we had the largest verdict in the history of the disabilities laws of the United States. And what is truly satisfying about the results in those cases is to see the renewal in the lives of those victims. You know, with regard to the foreign workers who now have their families here and their kids are participating in our schools and doing real well, they're part of the community and they're so proud to be Americans. And with the disabled men, to see them back on track and being taught about everything from dating to how to use the bus to now doing their own banking and having real jobs for real wages, and seeing the renewal of lives is probably one of the most satisfying things about the work that we do. I feel that I was called to this work because it's part of God's plan for my life. It's part of the fulfillment of my purpose. And so that is bolstered every day by my focus on the ultimate example, because there is no better example of my faith and my work and my profession than the one who is the best mediator of all time, the best counselor, the best advocate, the best judge, all rolled up into one, and administering mercy and judgment in a perfect balance, bringing to mind the scales of justice. And so when I think about all that and how it all works together, it empowers me to want to do more and to want to continue to be an instrument and a vessel to share the truth and to share the love that God has shared with me.